Hello, and welcome to episode 48 of Fiber Mates. My name is Gay. I'm a technical editor of knitting patterns based in Melbourne, Australia, and this is my podcast where I interview individuals involved in the woolcraft industry, mainly in Australia. I would like to welcome back returning viewers and a special welcome to those who are new to the podcast. Since the last episode, we have hit that magic number of 1,000 subscribers, and I'm so grateful to everyone who has watched the podcast, made a comment, given it a thumbs up. It's a really amazing milestone. I hadn't meant to actually, I made it a goal for this year, but not until, it was actually a December goal. So to hit that in January was really fantastic. And I think it just shows how much people want to connect and want to make their next fiber mate, whether it's online or when we can meet up together face to face, which there's quite a few events coming up, and I'm really looking forward to those as well. Now, I said I interview people who are mainly in Australia, and our next guest is in Australia, but she is known around the world, and that's Ambah O'Brien. I was so chuffed when Ambah agreed to come on the podcast, and I drove out to Malau, which is about 2 hours outside of Melbourne. It was a beautiful day trip and a beautiful day, and we had a lovely time catching up. So before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners on which the episode was recorded, and that's the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. But now I will show you the interview that we recorded. I hope you really enjoy it. Thanks so much. I am here, you might recognize, well, obviously you will recognize the person next to me, but you'll recognize her space. We are in Ambah O'Brien's studio, which you will have obviously seen on Instagram if you follow Ambah. If you don't follow Ambah, press pause, go to your social media and find Ambah O'Brien and hit follow. Ambah has been designing patterns for years out here in Malau, which is an island off of the coast of Victoria. And I've come down from Melbourne for the day to speak with Ambah, to meet her, and we've been having a great chat before recording. And hello, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for coming all this way, and it's so great to have you here and be a fiber mate.
Yes. So we've been starting chats now with the lightning round. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Lightning round. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Interchangeables or fixed circulars?
Interchangeables.
Me too. Me too. If you were a knitting stitch, what stitch would you be?
Squishy garter stitch.
Oh, I like it. I like it. There's nothing like that.
No.
Garter, like any weight of yarn, really.
Yep. It's
like,
satisfying.
Yeah. Okay, here's the hard one. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only take patterns of one designer, but not your own, who would it be and why?
Oh, I have to pause for a moment. So, Degen, I know it is Lindsay Degen. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've been having a big designer crush on Lindsay Degen lately. Her work is really fun. It's she's got lots of variety of patterns, and if I didn't have so much knitting to do in my queue, I would love to knit at least one of her garments. So yeah, I think I'd happily hang out on a desert island and knit some of Lindsay Degen's beautiful designs.
Yeah.
They also have ready-to-wear designs as well, so maybe I could just treat myself to a pre-knit one if I don't get stranded on a desert island?
Just while we're on that, we'll have links to everything in the description box below. So there'll be a link to Lindsay Deegan's website, which I have explored before and am completely in love with her brioche bubble crew neck. It's a real basic. I'm a lover of basic knits with good structure and squishy stitches, and that takes
it for you.
all the boxes, all of the boxes for me.
There's a lot of fun, vibrant colour and just nice quirkiness to their designs.
She's a flower power sweater with this kind of bold, Scandi flower graphic that I also love, kind of very Marimekko or type of vibe.
That would be on my needles first.
In 2 colors too, so you just have to pick like that. It's not too complicated, so I find selecting, if I can pick 2 colors,
that's like enough for you,
right? It's anything more than that gets a bit for me. But we can talk about color more, definitely. And she also has this really cool tent sweater, which is, it's a drop shoulder construction with a bit of a shorter length sleeve to accommodate for how much positive ease it has. It's pretty baggy, and I thought that would make an incredible dress.
Yes,
because it's got that proportion right at the top, so you don't.
So kind of trapeze style.
Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds good.
The world needs more knit dresses.
Yeah,
like
I agree with that.
I've been thinking about hacking some patterns to get a dress, but I haven't found exactly one, but shape, right? You don't want to be swimming at the top in order to accommodate bottom.
And it probably wouldn't stretch then too and get out of shape if it was a bit loose.
If it was.
In the bottom.
That's right.
That would be... Yeah, I'm drawn to their more graphic designs, I think. The eyes, the jumper with all the eyes.
Yes. It's funny that you say that. I looked at that and I said, that's so cool. And then my next thought was, that would be so hard to knit. It's just like, oh my gosh, I can't even, like, all the yarn management of that for me. So maybe I could buy one of those.
Yeah.
Well, you've made it through the lightning round.
Yay!
All right.
It's a good intro, nice and relaxing to get past that.
We're warming up.
Yeah.
Here's your first question. Have you always been a crafter? And when did you start knitting?
I've always been a maker. It's always been my happy place to be making things and jewellery. Ever since I was a child, I was always the crafty kid, drawing and cutting out paper and would spend hours and hours just doing that. I come from a pretty creative family. My mum is a fibre artist, and she dabbled in painting silk, creating amazing outfits, knitting. Her and my grandmother, when I was young, would be in the 80s knitting amazing 80s knitwear, which I was in awe of. So yeah, I've always been into making and crafting and fashion and clothing as well. So that's just been part of my blood, I think, from my mum. And but I didn't really take up knitting until more recently. When I was about 7, my mum cast on and I knit some wonky garter stitch holey blankets for my dolls. And then she'd bind off for me, so I couldn't even cast on or bind off. Oh, gosh. And I remember being envious of my sister because she could do pearl stitch, and it just seemed so fancy that she could make it flat and not bumpy and holey.
I'm just like fast forward to now, like, hello. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so I was well into my adulthood thinking, I'm never going to be a knitter. And I was surrounded by knitters. My son was going to a Waldorf Steiner school, so there was a lot of knitting happening there. And, I'd always buy him hand knits where I could from the op shop or from wherever I could, or if he was gifted them, I'd treasure them. I just love knitwear. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to knit a jumper. Like, I just can't see myself spending months on doing something like that. I couldn't understand it. I would sew and I'd do other craft activities and always dabbled in jewellery making, which led later to making stitch markers, so that came in handy. And and then I started knitting, which I credit my son partly with as well.
Because was he learning at school?
He was learning at school, so he learnt at about the age of 7, and around the same time one of the mums in his class opened up a yarn store, and that was Ziggo Zago, if anyone knows of Ziggo Zago.
Yeah.
And so that was opened before Pam took over by Alex, and I remember just being in awe of the beautiful yarn because we would hang out together. So she was talking about what she was doing. She was always knitting things flying off her needles, beanies and garments, and the yarn just was so appealing to me. So I got excited by that and was dabbling a little bit with crochet. I would do some wonky kind of random coral crochet things, so jewellery and headpieces, and so I was kind of dabbling a little bit in yarn, and I bought some off Alex, and she introduced me to Ravelry. That was in 2011, told me about Ravelry, so I signed up to that.
I feel like once you hit Ravelry, like it just kind of snowballs.
Yeah. And it was still a good few months before I bought a pair of knitting needles from the op shop, and my first project, I bought 2 skeins of Madeline Tosh Merino Light from Alex.
All right.
It's like the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did because, I knit a back to scarf, which is a really simple garter stitch triangle scarf, and you start at one end and increase.
Oh yeah.
It's very much like the Sophie scarf, that very popular scarf, but without I-cord edging, so perfect for a beginner. And I bought beautiful, it was kind of like a grey blue and a creamy white Madeline Tosh Merino Light, so I did stripes. And got my son to teach me how to cast on. He showed me how to cast on, and then I'm not sure if he showed me the increasing, or maybe Alex did. There's certainly help from Alex as well. And Alex was pretty excited about having content to show on her Instagram, so she was, and her blog, so she's like, come on, hurry up, knit that scarf. There was some pressure there, which is good. I mean, it did take me a long time, but I just savoured every stitch because the yarn was so delicious, and just little subtle changes the whole time. I was just like, it was such a lovely experience, and there was no pressure to finish it next week or anything, apart from Alex's little gentle pressure there. And
Motivation, right? Motivation from your friends.
And Felix taught me how to bind off as well, I remember that. And he was also eagle-eye watching my progress, saying, there's a hole there, Mum, you need to go back and fix that.
I love that.
Which was very cute and very lovingly done, and I'm so glad he did. I loved that scarf to death. I mean, I still have it. It's a relic in my treasure box of things, but I loved that. It was so pleasurable to make, so soothing, such a relaxing thing that was contrasting with other things I was doing at the time, and I had the beautiful finished object that I loved so much. I think I was struck gold on that first project because it certainly was the gateway.
I love that story. I think that really resonates in terms of having a project that you love, and that is this actual source of joy. Like, the yarn, or like knitting with a Madeline Tosh type of yarn, I know when I've done that, it's every time you see that little pop of color speckle, it's like, oh, there's a green, oh, there's a pink, oh, there's a yellow. Like, it just adds this freshness, I think, to, so you're not just like black, black, garter. Like, I mean, sorry, and I don't mean to diss black Bartex.
Yeah,
like,
and I happily wear plenty of black, we'll knit with black, but yeah,
I'm from Melbourne, we wear black, like, right. But there is something special about a beautiful yarn like that.
Yeah, hand dyed, it's got that movement in it, and
Yeah.
yeah, pretty special. So yeah.
So then moving from Madeline Tosh scarf to what I will describe as a design empire. Like, literally. What sparked your interest in designing, and how did you get a start?
I didn't really intend to design and knitting. At the time, I was working as a face and body painter and was traveling a lot doing that, and really busy, working a lot of weekends, which I found hard with young family, and I was feeling more and more burnt out. So, and I loved what I did. I mean, the teaching was, all aspects of it. Teaching, body painting was probably my favourite part. So just creating a whole painted costume on a body for various events, and that might be a performance, or the painting itself is a performance, or a photo shoot, various reasons that I would be doing body painting. And then there was teaching, which involved more of the travel, and I had some great fun internationally and around Australia doing that, but I got to a point where I was feeling burnt out, and so I took up knitting with gusto. I was just like, this is the antidote to what I'm feeling. And I always liked, if I'm watching something, I always like to be doing something with my hands. So finally I found knitting the perfect accompaniment.
It is perfect.
Before that it would have been maybe sewing or sketching designs or painting. So yeah, knitting's a perfect thing. And I saw designers, I was admiring designers, knitting patterns from designers on Ravelry, going down all the rabbit holes, and I thought, oh, I don't see myself becoming a designer. I couldn't do that. That's just a whole other level of skill. And I did it anyway, which just kind of blows my mind. So one day I was thinking about something that I might like to knit. Maybe, I'm not sure if I had the yarn, and I just couldn't find the right pattern. And even that's bizarre to me, given how many amazing patterns there are out there. But I just didn't find the one that was hitting the spot for me, and that was probably a good year or so after I'd taken up knitting, and I'd knit garments and scarves, and I was pretty obsessively knitting any spare moment that I had. And so I just decided to knit what was the first design, which is called Kinta, which is an eyelet little sort of scarf shawl. And my friend Alex with Zigo Zago encouraged me to write it up and publish it. And she kind of proofread it for me. That was the tech editing.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, and I was on Ravelry, but I wasn't engaged in any of the communities there particularly. I just kind of look around. I did join probably soon after the designer group and gained a lot of insight from that group into designing and processes. But before that, I just published the pattern. I think it was $2. I thought I'll put a price on it, and maybe that can help me buy some more of that Madeline Tosh that I love, that I was getting quite a taste for. And I woke up the next day and I'd sold several copies, and I was just like, wow, okay. And that just encouraged me to try another design, and it just steamrolled from there. I could see, with what I was doing with the face and body art, I was also doing YouTube tutorials and step-by-step PDF sheets. So I was producing something that was an instruction, so kind of similar to knitting instructions, but it was for face painting and body painting. So I could see it being, I could see that it might work for me as something to divert my energy into. And yeah, I just over the next few years did both and gradually built up the knitting. I guess I built up my catalogue and had some patterns that hit a sweet spot for people and did really well. And also pretty early on I set up my Ravelry group, and that's always been just a lovely active place. So we'd do test knitting in there, and the community seemed to grow quite rapidly in there. And yeah, I guess it was good timing, the early 2010s, when Instagram was a great place to be, and Ravelry, and you know, it just kind of all worked in my favour at that time. And I haven't looked back.
I know exactly what you mean about when you were talking about not being able to find the pattern that you want to knit. I have been looking for a raglan but I want 3 buttons just on the side, like a little button placket on one of the raglans, and I can't find it.
So maybe you need to move from tech editor to
I
designer.
Oh, I don't know. I co-designed a pair of socks that was released last month as my first design, but under with a friend, Susanna Cartman, and I'm not sure. We'll see. I don't know.
I love that idea though. Would you have buttons just on one side?
Just on one side, like a little. I think Amy Scher has just come out with one, but the buttons are up here, and then more of a, I don't know if that's a set-in sleeve or a drop shoulder, but I want them just along the raglan. I'd really have to think about how to make that happen, because my preference is top down. Bottom up would be pretty easy, right? Like go to here and then flatten it. I think you could flatten it.
Well, you could do top down, keep it open, and then come back with a way of adding buttonholes, either like a little flap or something, like you might add ribbing,
like
or you could have
placket,
some
right?
little, or add some loops that you loop around buttons to just close, and then it would be top down.
Anyway, I have to think about it. We'll see. There's a lot to designing, as you would know. Sorry, there was something else I wanted to say, but it's just evaporated from my mind, and I'll come back to it if it decides to pop back in. But I want to talk about how I first learned about you, which is so random because I was living in Melbourne, and my mother would send me these random emails that she would get from yarn shops that she is subscribed to in the United States, and one of them was Jimmy Beans, and I saw they had an email with some of your designs on. I was like, oh, look at this designer, this is great. And then I'm like, oh yeah, she's in Australia. Like, how do I not know about, like, it must have been living under a rock, but it was probably during COVID, so I was living under a rock. So as a designer, how do you collaborate with somebody like Jimmy Beans, and how does that even come about? Maybe we should talk about do people know what Jimmy Beans is, maybe?
Oh yeah, maybe.
If you're in Australia, I don't know, they would ship internationally. I've never ordered from them.
I've ordered from them quite a bit, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're a big online yarn store.
Huge.
And have everything. And they now own Metal and Tosh as well.
Do they?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Well, that works. That works. How does that kind of relationship or collaboration come about?
Usually it's an invitation from them. So I have done, I think, maybe 3 collaborations with Jimmy Beans, and someone will reach out with, I think, at least 2 of them, I'm trying to think what the third was, were mini skein focused. So one was a 12-month club, maybe both were. They were 12 mini skeins, and so they wanted a pattern that could be knit a little section each month.
Mm-hmm.
And normally they would let me choose the yarns, pick the colours. I think it was specifically Madeline Tosh. So I selected my 12, and then they did an alternate version of the pattern with 12 other colours.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, another one we had 3 different dyers. That was what I call the festive wrap. That was for more a December design.
Yeah.
And so I had 3 dyers. I think one was Madeline Tosh, one was Neighbourhood Fibre Company, I think, and Moondrake Yarn Company.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and so the challenge was I think I had 3 dyes, maybe 4 colours from each. Create a design that combined all those, plus had like that little bit of section every day to knit, and that was 12 mini skeins. And yeah, I really enjoyed that, enjoyed choosing the yarn and collaborating with the dyers. I chose with Neighbourhood Fibre Company a kind of a fade, and then I think speckles from the Madeline Tosh and brights from Moondrake Yarn Co. So leaning into each of their kind of strengths as dyers, and then created the wrap design. Yeah, so generally I'll be invited. There's other collaborations I've done with indie dyers as well, Miss Babs and Sunshine Yarns, and it's often a challenge, and a good challenge, because it's something I might not have decided to do on my own, but to be given a certain parameter and prompt. My first mystery knit along was from Danny from Sunshine Yarn saying, would you do a mystery knit along? And I did the Hail Bop shawl and had a great time doing that. So before that, I was probably a bit tentative about doing a mystery knit along. It's quite a challenge to keep people surprised and engaged and entertained over that period of time. And I have done a few mystery knit alongs since, which have probably been some of my favourite designs, and also very challenging, some of my most challenging designs.
Challenging to create or challenging to knit?
Possibly all. Yeah, probably a bit more technique heavy, and yeah, but I wait until inspiration strikes, or if someone invites me to collaborate. And when I get a really clear idea of what I want to do, then I'll start thinking about that as a mystery knit along.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing about mystery knit alongs, is because you don't know what it's going to be. You inevitably will learn something new. Yeah.
Are you a mystery knitter? Would you do a mystery knit along?
I have done some. I've done one successfully, and I should finish the second one successfully, hopefully.
But it's been revealed now at this point.
Yeah.
The second one, yeah.
Yeah. And but for the most part, those are the only, I've tried it 3 times. So that's not too bad, right?
Yeah,
2 out of 3.
So your game.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just need to know, and that's fair enough before knitting. I'm probably lean more towards that. But I love creating a mystery knit along.
And Miss Babs is from Florida, I think, where I used to live. Was the last place I lived in the US, and is now available in Australia.
At the Skein Sisters.
At Skein Sisters.
Yeah. I'm knitting. There's that pile over there is Miss Babs.
Oh, I might have to squish that later.
Yeah.
I got to feel it actually in person, which I think is fun. When I was at Skein Sisters last month. Yeah, it's beautiful yarn.
Yeah. And lots of varieties. I don't know. I assume the Skein Sisters are stocking the Yummy 2-ply.
I think they have Yummy 2-ply, definitely. I can't remember what other types that they might have. But I think you can always order it. They're very, like if you want to order something in advance,
Oh,
I think
through
you
the Scan
can-
Sisters.
yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, the shipping since COVID, buying from America is just so much more expensive now.
And I think it might get worse.
Yes.
The Australian dollar keeps falling.
Pretty bad right now.
I know it's. I really wanted to go to Rhinebeck this year, and I'm just like, it's not the best. Like, I'll be able to go and get one skein, like bankrupt me. Anyway.
But yeah, I've done some really fun collaborations with Babs as well, with dyeing colours. So she, I give her kind of some ideas of colours, and she's created kits for me.
That's fun, because then you really have this vision that you see come to life.
Yeah.
Both from the color of the yarn to your design, and that's cool.
So yeah, I love being able to. I don't want to dye yarn myself, but I love being able to work with dyers and create something.
Yeah.
Which I've also done with Sunshine Yarns, Tarina from Love and Speckles. They're great dyers that I've worked with.
Tarina's amazing
Yeah.
dyer. I interviewed her a few months ago, so you can check that out too. So you have an extensive back catalog of designs. How do you maintain your creative force or your continued creativity? Do you have any practices or strategies that you've come up with that enable you to keep coming up with new ideas and inspiration?
Oh, I mean, when you first started asking that, I was thinking, I guess it's like a muscle, if you use it, it keeps getting stronger. I do feel like the more I create, the more inspired I am. And knitting, it takes so long to make something. By the time I've finished it, I have so many other things I want to make. It's just flows quite readily. Someone asked a similar question in my Ravelry group last week, and I said, it's more about filtering all the ideas and just honing in on some and selecting. So, and sometimes it might be a commitment to collaboration that I've agreed to, and other times, just have a list of 10 things but think, all right, what do I really want to prioritize? Or sometimes it's, what do I want? Like right now, last autumn I was putting on this cardigan thinking, I really want a pullover version of this, so I made that. And so it's a real mixture, but often design leads to new design, and I kind of deep dive. I feel like the last couple of years has been a lot of mosaic in my knitting, and I love mosaic, there'll be plenty more, but I feel like I'm sort of maybe moving into more intarsia, and I don't know, we'll see. And I
think intarsia is having a moment right now.
I think it might be. Maybe I'm just being influenced.
I'm going to pause and just talk about what you're wearing, because I love this design, and I really want to make the pullover. It's like one of my dream knits, and I've been like racking my stash trying to find a good yarn for it, and I haven't been able to. And I'm just trying to have more output than input in my yarn purchasing this year. So I will make it eventually, and this is the Baronia cardigan, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's probably a little bit hard to see, but it's got a sweet lace pattern that's only an 8-stitch lace pattern, so it's not that complicated. Get the hang of it. There's quite a collection now, the Baronia hat, which is a good starting place.
Great gauge swatch.
Yes. And the pullover, the vest, which is the pullover sleeveless. And I also did little scarves, Baronia scarves last year. So
I had my eye on the pullover because I saw Tarina's version in this beautiful pink.
Yeah. And you took a beautiful photo, which is now her cover photo, actually.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good.
she loves it. Yeah, so DK weight for the pullover, and this one is worsted, so slightly different, but you can adjust, you don't. And I was amazed, I put on a linen cardigan this morning for this interview.
It was chilly.
It was really cold
this morning.
I pulled out the worsted weight. I mean, it's actually summer here.
Yeah. But we've had really, really hot weather, and now it's just we had a front come through. Yeah. Which it's actually quite nice.
some good rain for the garden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Even my little balcony passion fruit that I'm trying to grow. Anyway, sorry, I've digressed.
So yeah, that's what I'm wearing, the Baronia.
Fibronia.
Yeah.
This. We're back on track now. Do you have a favorite design of yours, or a short list of your favorites, or is it too hard? Is it like picking your favorite child kind of thing?
Yeah, it's too hard.
Or a category?
I think maybe a special place in my heart for Lily Pilly, which is a wrap I designed and published, I think it was 2015, that I feel like really got me established as a designer in terms of people discovering me, and possibly one of the most knit patterns. Yeah, so special place because that really led me to full-time designing, I would say. I mean, there were designs before that. And yeah, I love it. I always need to make another one.
I think it's beautiful. I was actually admiring it just last night. I was looking at Ambah's patterns when I was preparing for the interview, and I was like, I felt like I had never seen it before. Because it's in like a beautiful, is it red? It's kind of like a pinkish.
Yeah, more almost magenta.
Yeah, and grey?
Grey and a darker grey, all Madeline Tosh that I was able to splash out on with my pattern sales. Yeah, so, and I years later released Lily Pilly shawl version, so very similar, same stitches and different colours. They are in Tarina's Love and Speckle yarns, some gorgeous kind of teals that she dyed up. But it just looks, I mean, I remember a test knitter knitting one with neon lace, and I loved that so much. Just really fun.
I think that's really fun when you add like a really modern take to something quite so classical. It would be like the same thing as like crocheting a neon doily.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And then other favourites?
Yeah.
All of them. I mean, every year I look back, I think I get stuck in the moment of knitting and the next and designing, and I'm obsessed. And then I do like at the end of each year to look back over the year and think, that's right, all those designs, and I'm pretty fond of them all. I mean, some more than others, some I wear more than others, but yeah, no real favourites.
Mm-hmm. Can I just show this? Because I don't know, I have this not a love-hate relationship, it's not hate, but with blankets. Like, I would love to have more knitted blankets in my house, like just as decor, because I find them really super cozy, but I just find that they're a little bit cumbersome to make. Mm-hmm. And then I saw this blanket, which is just over here on the couch. Can we just hold that up a little bit? And it was at 4-ply.
Yes.
Filled with mohair. It is the most incredible, soft and fluffy blanket.
This is called the Radvent Throw, and it's also knit in Love and Speckles. And it was a festive set that Tarina dyed. I think it's called something garden. It's a garden.
Secret garden?
Flower garden.
Might be flower garden. There'll be a link to it below, don't worry.
And also held with some mohair. So each square is a 20-gram mini skein, and there's 24 in this, so people who like to knit along in December when they open their minis could knit a square a day and then join them together.
And a lot of designers, or not designers, dyers are starting to, do you know you can get an extra skein, or like it comes with one?
Yeah, so this came with a full skein, which I used for the edging. So sometimes it's optional when you order a set, you might add on the extra skein or not. Yeah. And it varies from dye to dyer.
But then sometimes they'll now be offering like mohair as well. And I think Tarina
she usually does
have some mohair too. And I was just like, I'm going to be on the lookout. Like, literally, I just want to put it on.
So much for stash down.
I know. I do love an advent. And I get FOMO every year when I don't have one. And
I actually just love watching people open theirs. And then if there's one that I really love, then I reach out to the dyer and see if they're doing a re-dye. And usually if it is, hits a spot, a lot of people will be asking them.
I got Prosper yarn this year. That was beautiful.
I can't think of
They're
that.
out of New Zealand.
I'll have to check that out.
They do beautiful tonals. They might do speckles, but my advent was just color after beautiful color, and now I'm like, oh, I could
Make a blanket.
Well, I wanted to.
It is a good project because you use up all the yarn pretty much.
Oh, that is good because I wanted to make a Radvent cardigan. I have loved the Radvent. It's one of Ambah's patterns for years, and just the advents that I have not been
quite right.
Yeah. But I have plans to do Go Throw. I've got a hedgehog fibers advent, which has just these beautiful, crazy speckled colors, and now I'm like, oh, wonder if I could do this one. But I just Go Throw use mohair too.
It's optional, and as with this one, you don't have to. So
that's the thing I don't always remind myself of, is that when we knit, we can just do whatever we want, right? We don't even have to follow the pattern, right?
It's with the Go Throw, I knit one, I think I used mohair for mine, and Tarina knit one without and sent it over. So I had both versions in the same colours. It was her purple purple to green set, which was really gorgeous. I could literally sit here in this blanket. I'll put it back, I promise. Sorry, where are we now? Let's see. Let's go back to our questions. Can you share any new designs that you have coming? And what can we look forward to this year? Do you know what I'll do? I'll mention right now, because Louie and Lola Yarns in Tasmania, Karina and I are doing a knit along this year called Love Locale, with a C or a K, whether you crochet or knit. I love that.
It's being run, there's a Ravelry page for it on the Louie and Lola Ravelry page. And it's to knit a pattern from an Australian or New Zealand designer with Australian or New Zealand based yarn. So whether that's an indie dyer or from a local yarn shop, or a local wool producer. And in February, so this podcast will come out the first week of February. In February, you get an extra entry for the monthly prizes if you knit one of Ambah's designs.
Yay!
So,
And you mentioned that because it was about the heart design.
Yes.
So I have, I have a bundle with all of the heart lace designs that I'll send you a link to. I'll open it back up because it's fun to knit love hearts in February. And I have quite a few different designs. I brought two to show today, or they're the same one, because you mentioned it.
I love it. I have it, and I'm planning to knit it. Every year I knit something. I'm in the Country Women's Association, my local urban branch of it, and I knit something for a raffle.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to knit this one.
Fantastic.
For
So
the
this
raffle.
is the Dreamy Valentine, which
I
was
love it.
the first of this series. I mean, every year or two I seem to add to the collection. And this one's knit in 4-ply. I actually re-knit this one last year for Hobby Yarn. This is out of Hobby Yarn because they wanted to have some kits, or they wanted it to showcase their unicorn yarn on their website. So that gorgeous magenta colour. I've knit quite a few.
Which I love.
And the pattern has fingering weight, sport weight and DK weight options. But when I was knitting this last year, I thought, I'm going to do a super chunky version.
I love it.
Which was just so fun. I knit this up in a couple of hours. Because it's big.
Can I try it on?
Yeah. And really satisfying. I've got little mod notes on my blog and on my Ravelry project page for that. So it's essentially just the very bottom part of that done in a supersized scale. But I love that scaling lace with a chunky yarn.
Do you know what I want? I want a chunky yarn and a cowl. Like, to connect it in the back.
Yeah.
Although I could just wear it like this. Right. Coat. It's so cozy. What yarn is this?
That one is, I think it's replenishes.
Mm-hmm.
So it says super bulky yarn. I'll let you know if you want to pop it in the notes.
Yeah.
And I have it on my project page and on the blog. So that's really fun. And I was kind of playing around with making a smaller bandana version for this podcast.
Yeah.
So you could do just a smaller, it's just about working fewer repeats so that you could just have like a little smaller version for summer knitting. And I was also thinking, I've designed 2 shrugs that use that lace. So just simple shrugs, but I would really like to do a cardigan, like a linen summer cardigan with that lace pattern.
That would be really fun. And this would be a great gift knit.
Yes, because it's so fast.
Yeah.
And that's another shawl, Sherbet Fizz, also knit in a bulky yarn. So it's really fast to knit, great gift, and just so satisfying. And a good way to use up these yarns.
Yeah.
If you have any in your stash.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Dreamy Valentine. But what else for this year?
Coming up. So this will be published by the time this airs. This is coming out at the end of January. And it's called the Snaggletooth Shawl. And it's just a sweet little end-to-end shawl with a very simple intarsia, speaking of intarsia, passion in it, that the test knitters, some are quite experienced with intarsia and others are knitting it for the first time and saying this is a great first intarsia project because you only have 2 colours and 2 balls versus juggling maybe 3 or 4 balls across a row.
Yes.
So this is a DK version of it and a fingering weight. And the fingering weight, I used 5 mini skeins as well for the main colour. So it's 100 gram skein or 5 mini skeins to make the fingering weight version.
So you could colour block it, you could fade it.
Anything, all kinds of things. And
So
you have
many
that
possibilities.
fun little tooth. So that's really fun, and my partner Andy came up with the name Snaggletooth, which is really cute and perfect.
Zigzag. I love it.
And then in this part of the world where we are, we've been fortunate to see auroras quite frequently over the last couple of years, and I've taken up a hobby of going out at 4 a.m. or whenever and trying to take photos of them and getting better and better at the photos, which is highly satisfying. And this year, a Victorian-based dyer, Sadie from Green Tea Yarns, who is also a US expat.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she's on the Mornington Peninsula, which would be a nice place to go visit as well.
It would. Sadie, I'm going to come for you.
And Sadie, for each year, the Advent kits, the festive kits, run a knit along in December, and noticed people opening Sadie's Aurora kit, and day one it was a neon yellow and I was just hooked from day one. So I noticed she had a 12 mini skein set, so the 24 set fades from the yellow to purple, and the 12 colour set has a similar fade but just fewer skeins, so less of a transition between some of the colours, or more transition between some of the colours. So I ordered the set and the coordinating full skein, which is like a dark blue, midnighty colour, and have designed the Aurora Hunters shawl
Love
with
it. Love it. Look at this.
which also, it's a bit like Snaggletooth with the intarsia. It's a different shape. It's an asymmetrical triangle shape.
That's one of my favorite shapes for shawls, I think.
Yeah, it's so nice to wear.
It's very wearable.
And Sadie's currently dyeing up so this is the Northern Lights colour inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I sent her one of my photos with the more purples and magentas of the colours that we get down here for the Aurora Australis. So she's dyeing up 5 minis, which will be in a fade, and I'll knit a smaller 5 mini skein version of this as well. And that will come out in March. Each year I have a knit along that's a mini munch knit along, so
Yes.
everyone has heaps of minis after December. And
do.
we get munching. And so it's a March mini munch cowl, and this will be available then, or people can knit any of my patterns, just as long as they use at least a mini or a partial leftover skein. It's pretty relaxed, but it's a fun way to munch the yarn, basically.
Well, whether it's minis or scraps that you've got, because sometimes I'm surprised if I knit a pair of socks, how much yarn I have left over.
Like often maybe
Like
a
a
whole mini
big-
skein, or,
yeah,
or
yeah.
half a skein.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to knit my other full skeins, so I was about to say I'm at a loss sometimes as to what to do with it. Currently, they're quite random colors for the things that I've knit previously. Haven't yet developed like,
A palette of
you see some people that have a podcast or whatever, they can have a basket of pink minis or a basket of pink leftovers or something. That's not me yet. I'll get there one day, I think.
And the small projects, or the projects that just use, the black in this, I can't remember offhand, but I think it's equivalent to a mini. So this is essentially 6 mini skeins worth. So yeah, just to use a small amount of yarn for a highlight colour or something. And then beyond that, I've got ideas brewing, but nothing to show. I usually have a mid-year solstice knit along, so I'll be designing, I'm thinking 2 things for that. Something for us in the Southern Hemisphere, a wintry garment perhaps, and then a shawl for the Northern Hemisphere. The past few years that has been a mystery knit along, but I'm not sure if I'll have it a mystery this year or not. I haven't had the inspiration yet, but I've got some ideas. And then each year I do a Halloween knit along as well, and love creating some darker knits for that.
Yeah.
And combining it sometimes with flowers and things too, for us in the Southern Hemisphere where it's spring during Halloween. And then the festive knit along. So yeah, kind of a repeat of the things I've been doing for the last couple of years, but each year fresh designs to add to the collection, and people can choose between all the designs.
And we love them. So we're very happy for you to keep creating. I can see a Moonflowers shawl as well across from where we're sitting, and I have had that in my queue for ages and ages, and I have some beautiful Noro silk garden in black and like bright pink.
Fantastic.
So
much knitting.
So much knitting and so little knitting time. Yeah. Anyway, we could lament that for hours, I'm sure. But I'm going to loop back around to the lightning round where I asked about your desert island designer. Do you have any other favorite designers? Then what makes them special in your eyes?
I just am inspired. Inspired by things that stop me in my tracks in knitting, in Instagram, where I go, wow. I love seeing bold, bright colours, but simple design and simple colours are as effective too. We've been talking about intarsia, and I've been loving Anna Hoosman, who's a European designer doing some really bold geometric shapes and love her use of colour. Like every time I see one of her images, I kind of stop and look. First and foremost, I would have to say Jenny Key, the Aussie designer. She's an icon. So
the famous koala sweater, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's
and
iconic.
Intarsia as well. So
Yeah.
her designs are pretty wild and wattle and Australian themes.
Yeah.
Larger than life. I love her work. K Facet, similar, different vibe, but just really interesting use of colour and techniques, and really interesting, amazing how much he's created in his lifetime. I really miss Pom Pom magazine and their curation. I think that their aesthetic was just something that really was my jam. I loved the designs they chose, the freshness of them, the colours, really interesting.
I know. I liked, I found I can't remember the name of the pattern. I'll have to put it in, but it was by Zandy Peters, who has this incredible use of color, and it's basically a knit tartan.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's gorgeous. I can't remember the name.
I'll be looking at that when you put that link up.
It's incredible, and I found the magazine. I was in a yarn shop in Harvard, Massachusetts, when I was over visiting my mom and dad, and I was like, oh my gosh, there it is, because I had seen it before, but I think once Pom Pom kind of sold out here, like it's not the easiest thing to procure. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, yep, coming home with me.
Fantastic. And you like books, as you were telling me.
I
Like
do.
you have hard copies.
I love a hard copy. I do love a hard copy.
Who else? Stephen West, he was, when I started, just always amazing and innovative and interesting, and there's just so many. And also when knitters knit and add their own flavour to things, it's always really exciting and inspiring.
I love that, particularly in Stephen West's work. Like when I've seen, for example, his MCAL, and you see somebody take it like in a whole new kind of color direction, and you're just like, wow,
It's a whole different thing.
Like, how does your mind even, like, Stephen's mind's here, but then like to take it and do something totally original like that, I think is actually even more impressive than the original design, or can be.
And Nancy Marchant, I think she's lives in a similar part of the world to Stephen in Amsterdam, and she's just so innovative, really interesting, trying textures and techniques, and recently she's been kind of weaving, knitting, and it's there's always something interesting going on with her.
That shawl that she did with the
I-cord, is it?
I'm not sure, but it's like just these small strips of, I'm pretty sure that's Nancy Marchant.
Yes, it does sound.
And it looks woven. It's
really interesting. So that excites me when I see things that I haven't seen before, that make me stop and think, wow, how does this person's mind work? And so some other designers, not Intarsia, but different techniques, but Amy Van der Leer from Baroque Pearls in New Zealand, but lives in Australia. We like to claim...
I will claim Amy. I will claim Amy. She's got great texture in her patterns.
Yes. Always so interesting and just looks so beautifully considered and lush and gorgeous photos, and always drawn to her.
Her honeycomb set, I think she's got a hat, cowl, and mitts in this honeycomb texture that is definitely in the queue.
So many
we could talk about them forever.
But it is good eye candy. I do like Instagram for that, although it's harder to filter favourite designers, but it's just so worth it when you get stopped in your tracks and see something that just makes you think, wow.
Yeah, this is probably the reason I have like 1,200 favorites in my Ravelry like bundles. again, I'm going to need more knitting time. I'll have to make that a New Year's resolution, maybe. Although it's a bit late for that.
We're still in January.
All right. Back in November, around the time of the election results in the US, you actually gave away the suite of patterns for Dreamy Valentine, which I thought was so generous, and I collected one. What was your impetus in doing this?
It just felt, after the election, so dark, honestly. It felt really flat, and here in Australia, where I'm not registered to vote in the US, it still has a ripple impact across the world. And I just felt like, okay, I feel like everyone needs a bit of a hug right now.
I know I did.
And that was the intention behind it, just to give some love, pay it forward, and hopefully help a ripple effect of positivity. And so I chose the Heart collection of patterns that people could pick one from. I'm not sure how many there are in that collection, maybe 8 or something. So I like that people could choose the one that would suit them most rather than one specific pattern, and knit some love, hopefully, for themselves or for someone else to gift to someone. And yeah, so it was a spontaneous thing. I hadn't really planned to do that. It just kind of was the thing that I thought, I think I will do this, and it felt nice. So yeah.
Well, as a recipient of that pattern and someone I think pretty directly impacted by that election result, I thank you. It was just really lovely, and it was a pattern that I had been kind of thinking about making, and I've got a great project for it this year. So
well, I look forward to seeing. Hopefully you get a time in February to
I know, I
want
want it. That's the plan.
Yeah.
That is the plan. Well, but I also want to do Baronia and Go-Go, and now maybe the Celestial. So,
and then there's Aurora Hunter, and
I know, and I do have. I've been collecting some minis. Anyway. So last question is, where can viewers find you?
they can find me on Instagram at Ambah O'Brien, and I guess you'll post little things below.
Yeah.
My website is ambah.co, and I have a very active group on Ravelry where we do a lot of the knit-alongs. I know not everybody can join in there, but those who can, that is a place that is most active. There's a Facebook group that's pretty mellow. There's people there, but it's just not the same. So you can find me on Ravelry, my website, Instagram, and Bluesky now. Also at Ambah O'Brien. So I'm Ambah O'Brien everywhere on the social media.
Fantastic. And I'll have links to all of those that I can. I think the Ravelry link will only work if you have a Ravelry account. I'm pretty sure that I've tripped up on that before. So
it will allow you to view patterns and purchase patterns without an account, but not to go into the forums.
Yeah.
So, and then it's free to sign up to Ravelry, but some people find that they can't use it for physical reasons.
Yeah. There's some accessibility issues, which hopefully they'll be working on.
I haven't heard any. I don't know what's happened there.
Anyway. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really fun chat, and I know everybody out there will love it. And I just really appreciate your time, Ambah. It's been really fun.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great to meet you and hang out.
I know.
Yeah.
Now I've got another fiber mate. Well, if you've liked this episode, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing, because it helps the channel reach more viewers. And until next time, happy knitting!
Yay! See ya!